Whether you consider yourself good or bad, righteous or evil, you still need the insight. So don't get mad at the message. Just be happy that you got some insight. Well, the story Star Witness is about a Trinidadian born basketball player that grew up in Brooklyn and played for the legendary coach Gil Reynolds. And due to Gil Reynolds, Star was on pace to be the all time collegiate scorer in North Carolina history. The all-time leading scorer is Tony Smith, who had 3,350 points, while Starr was on pace to score 3,372, but he was blackballed thanks to the coach, who did not like the fact that the Charleston Southern sent a person on his team bus after Starr scored 25 points in the second half against them. In other words, Starr coach felt that Starr was going to transfer to a different school. Therefore, he went out his way to blackball him on multiple occasions. Well, anyway, when Starr turned 26, he met Christ in Brooklyn after an event happened in a Chinese restaurant in which two crackheads were arguing about the Bible. Then Starr realized he doesn't know which one of them were right. So he got on his knees and prayed to be a disciple of Christ. Then out the blue, after work, one day he met someone claiming to be Christ. After Starr was telling everybody around him that there's only one planet and the moon and the stars are all within this one planet. Not only that, he also said that the world does not spin because it's impossible. And then Christ stepped to him and said, I see why God sent me into this world, because of people like you. And that's how the story Star Witness began. In other words, Star Witness is here to prove what Haile Selassie meant when he said, even in the 20th century, David will still beat Goliath. So let's watch. In former ages, Ge'ez was the language of the country. Ge'ez was understood by the learned people of the church, but not readily understood by the ordinary people. Arising from this, the scholars in their preaching and work have for centuries been forced in their teachings to interpret Ge'ez into Amharic. In other words, the Ethiopian Bible is not translated from Latin or Coptic or Hebrew. It's an Ethiopian book because it's about God. And God told us this. And it came to pass in the first year of the Exodus, which is going to happen approximately in 2049. In other words, the KJV left out the book of Jubilees because Jubilees speaks about Exodus and what's supposed to happen at the end of times, during Revelation, not thousands of years ago, when Moses was around. Also, God is around, because it tells you, my ordinances and my commandments and my Sabbaths, they have changed, because currently there are people in this land changing up the story. So I myself will send witnesses unto them, but they will not hear. So I will hide my face from them, and they will forget all my law and all my moons and Sabbath and festivals. And I will build my sanctuary in the midst, and I will dwell with them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Why? Because that's supposed to happen in the latter times, as mentioned in the book of Sirach. This Jesus was the son of Sirach, grandchild to Jesus, therefore lived in the latter times, after the people had been led away captive and called home again, and almost after all the prophets. Now his grandfather Jesus, as he himself witnesses, was a man of great diligence and wisdom. The first Jesus died. So who's the first Jesus? The judge. So he would say, and they are in peace. So he will tell you this. God created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of his own eternity. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world. And they that do hold it on his side do find it. But the souls of the righteous are in the hand of God. In the sight of the unwise they seem to die, but they are in peace, for they be punished in the sight of men, yet their hope is full of immortality. So it's going to appear that Jesus died, because that's what it says. The first Jesus died, but in reality he didn't. Why? Because Jesus, the son of Naz, successor to Moses, fought in the sight of the Lord, and he followed the mighty one in the time of Moses. So when is the time of Moses? The time of Moses happens in the latter years, as mentioned in the second book of Esdras and the first book. So it tells you, Esdras the priest bring the law of Moses that was given of the Lord of Israel. And who was there? Also Jesus. So Jesus was there with the Most High God, because it just told you, Jesus fought in the sight of the Mighty One. And when does this happen? In the latter times. So look forward for your shepherd that shall come in the end of the world. Be ready to the reward of the kingdom, for the everlasting light shall shine upon you forevermore. All receive the gifts of them, you, and be glad, giving thanks unto him that hath called you into the heavenly kingdom. Because I, Esdras, received the charge of the Lord upon the Mount Oreb, also known as Mount Sinai, that I should go unto Israel. I came up unto them, they set me at naught. In other words, people are not listening. So it tells you straight up, when Ethiopia, Persia, which is Iran, and Put, which is Libya, join up together, so after many days you will be given attention. In the final part of the years, you will come to the land of the people, onto the mountains of Israel. And there you will find Sheba. In other words, Sheba is a revelation character. She wasn't here thousands of years ago, and she's not dead. So let's pay attention and watch their lives.
You'll remember that Mussolini was an ally of Adolf Hitler, and that Adolf Hitler signed two concordant contracts with the Vatican. The Pope Pius XII signed two contracts with Adolf Hitler, that he would throw full Catholic support in Europe behind the new regime of Adolf Hitler if Hitler, upon winning the World War, would establish the Roman Catholic Church as the only legitimate religion of the world, under the new order of the world.
We find that the Bush family was heavily involved in financing Hitler, and the Kennedy family as well.
Right.
Hello, pay attention. Know that they try to change everything. So when they met before social media, people didn't want to believe. But now it's easier to understand.
NASA is 1000% a satanic organization, and what I'm going to share with you is going to blow your mind. So when researching the occult origins of NASA, you're going to find a blend of Disney, Freemasonry, Nazi intelligence, and Satanism. So let's talk about it. Every astronaut is an admitted Freemason. Walt Disney played a massive role in brainwashing the masses into believing in space travel. And Jack Parsons, founder of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratories, was a sex magic obsessed dark occultist heavily into Satanism. He was deeply connected with the infamous occultist Aleister Crowley, aka the most wickedest man alive, or the Great Beast. Now, this is nothing you'll get from a NASA press release or any textbooks, however. None of this is myth, but documented historical facts. So let's break it down into two parts. Now about Jack Parsons, because this guy was completely erased from not only history as a whole, but NASA entirely. In a sense, he's the real founder of the American space program. He wasn't just a rocket engineer, but a Thelemite occultist, a devoted student of Aleister Crowley.
Hello, pay attention. They try to change life itself, but they're getting caught.
I hate to break it to you, but satellites are fake. They don't exist as described. Please tell me who believes these images are real. And I know a lot of you are going to have a problem with it. I know the keyboard warriors are going to slap on their black gloves with the fingertips cut off. And let me know what geniuses, prodigies, and intellectuals you all are. You guys are so smart.
In other words, drawn planets named after Greek mythology are never real. They were never real. But when you try to tell somebody this in the 90s, they looked at you like you were crazy. Now, hello, look at yourself.
But in reality, believing in satellites is actually the dumbest shit ever, because it is theoretically and physically impossible. So let's get into it. Satellites allegedly reside in the thermosphere. Now, thermal means dealing with heat. So how hot are we talking? According to them, up to 2,000 degrees Celsius. Do you know how hot that is? As hot as a blast furnace. Now, the melting points of the materials used in satellites, which are aluminum, titanium, and gold, are all well below 2,000 degrees Celsius. So those satellites would be literal balls of flame. This is how they look. We're supposed to believe that there are over 10,000 satellites in space, hurtling over 17,000 miles an hour. And
hello, wake up. They keep getting caught. But this was hard for someone else to believe in the 90s. Trust me.
So you think the Earth is rotating 1,000 miles per hour? and that's why the sun comes up? Interesting. I'm going to give you a little Jenga.
Think about it. They had over 100 space shuttles missions, yet still they have yet to show the world spinning from an outer space view, as if they went out there without a camera. No, they never went out there. It's impossible.
Piece to pull out of that puzzle to make it a little bit more wobbly right now. I was at the beach this morning and I captured a lovely, lovely sight. Check it out. So it looks like it's coming up, but if you zoom in, you can see it's already up. There's just too much atmosphere that is making it lens, so it's blowing it up, and it looks like it's actually rising. Instead, perspective works. As the further thing gets away, the lower it's going to go, just like if you see street lights miles and miles down the road, they're not going to be up like here above your head, they're going to be down, just like this. It's just perspective. That's not actually going down, it's going further away, and the lensing from the atmosphere is blowing it up. If you zoomed in on this, it would be just exactly like my video.
In other words, the earth is only the dry land. So the things that are in the sky are the ones that are moving. You yourself are not moving. You're not spinning. You're not doing anything. And the sun, moon, and the stars are obviously inside of the planet. Hello, like pay attention.
Maths just ain't mathing. This is a fuel tank holding 60,000 gallons worth of fuel. Now, just for the Apollo 11 mission, the Saturn V rocket, to get out of Earth's orbit, it needed 203,400 gallons of kerosene fuel and 318,000 gallons of liquid oxygen. And to fully get to the moon, they needed to use 950,000 gallons of fuel. Once again, this is 60,000 gallons. And we're led to believe that this rocket used 950,000 gallons just to get to the moon. Then a further 950,000 essentially to get back.
Hello, wake up. So let's get back to Star Witness. In the story Star Witness, you might find both Moses and Job on his birth certificate. So both Moses and Job are known for being very meek, and they both suffered the same. Also know this. It was Moses who renamed Hoshea to Joshua, and Joshua is just another name for Jesus, because as we just saw, Jesus was in the time of Moses and fought in the sight of the Most High. So it was Moses who named him Joshua. Don't forget, Jesus' dad broke up with his mom, so his moms gave him a name, but his dad gave him a different name. So in the book of Job, God speaks to Job from a whirlwind, just like he would speak to Moses, just like he spoke to Solomon. For they are the same person. So they tell you in the book of Job, Job has 10 children. One of them is Jesus. So they would appear to die from a fire that came from a whirlwind storm. In other words, it let you know that Jesus will appear to die, but in reality, he will live forevermore. Follow Jah, not man.